Hello, everyone, and welcome to Student Council. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Also, no virus can stop democracy today. Facilitator, so thank you so much for joining us here on Collaborate. As you may know, Student Council is the Students Association's democratic decision-making body where all students can submit motions, vote, and participate. So at every student council, you will hear from the sabbatical officers during accountability, when you can ask them about their work, as well as discuss and vote on motions and expenditure requests which have been submitted by students. In this meeting, we'll also discuss and vote on affiliations for next year. So as you will have noticed, tonight's student council is being conducted online. So we're going to try and keep the agenda as normal as possible, but I will do some housekeeping for now just to make sure that you know what's going on throughout the agenda and everything. We'll also explain more as we move along in each section. So first off, please make sure your microphone is switched off and only switch it on if you have been given the floor to speak. You can do this by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, making sure that there's a line through the icon. So if there's a line, you know that it's muted. So please do not switch on your microphone unless you have been called on to speak. And if you switch it on at the wrong time by accident, a member of staff can assist by switching it off. So please keep use of the general chat on the right-hand side to a minimum, as we will be using it to take questions later on in the meeting. So if too many people are using the chat, people will not be able to see what questions are being asked in relation to motions or accountability. I also want to flag that this session is being recorded and will be posted on the Students Association's website. So if you do not want to be recorded, please privately message a member of staff and we'll stop the recording should you wish to speak. And if you have a question which is not about the content of the meeting, or if you're having a technical issue, or have a question about how the meeting works, for example, please privately message the appropriate member of staff. And staff members can be found under the moderator section of the attendees list. And we'll explain again each section more as we work through the agenda, but if you have any questions, please message the relevant member of Students Association staff, who you can find in the moderator section of the attendees list. And today's meeting, like usual, will finish no later than 8 p.m. Okay, so safe space and meeting code of conduct. Student council meetings are covered by our meeting code of conduct and safe space policies. These are in place to create an environment where all students feel welcome, respected, and fully able to participate. And it is our collective responsibility to follow and uphold these policies even online today. Student council should be the space where students can discuss the big issues affecting them. So please contribute whatever you can. So it's okay to make mistakes, slip up, or take some time out if you need to. And you can leave the meeting and enter again using the link if you need to do that. And we also recognize that people feel very passionately about certain subjects, but abuse, aggression, harassment, discrimination, and violence, even online, are completely unacceptable. And if you have a complaint to make about another person attending this meeting, you should privately message the safe space and support member of staff who will tell you what to do next. Whilst debating, it's important that you don't mention individual members of Students Association staff or staff teams. Instead, just refer to the Students Association. And a full copy of these policies can be found in the booklets we emailed out to you earlier. And we're going to be very short of time tonight, so I will be firm in moving the debate along in order to keep us on track and on top of this. As part of the student council meeting, you will have the opportunity to vote on the accountability reports, motions, and expenditure requests. Normally, this is done by paper ballot, but this month it will be conducted online via the Students Association website. But I'll explain more about this later on in the meeting. Okay, so time for accountability, which is the first part of the meeting. So this is your chance to hear about what your elected sabbatical officers have been working on and to ask questions about their work. And this is about holding them to account and making sure that they are being effective in their roles. The sabbatical officers will be given 2 minutes to provide an update on their work, which will be followed by an opportunity for you to directly ask them questions. However, don't forget that this is not your only chance to ask the SABs question, because you can email them at any time. We'll advise sabbatical officers when there are 30 seconds left by messaging 30 seconds in caps locks in the chat, and I will ask them to stop verbally when they have run out of time. So once the SABs have provided a verbal update to go along with their reports, there will be 5 minutes for questions, and we'll be taking 3 questions at once, and the SABs will respond to these before more questions are asked. So to ask a question, please raise your hand by clicking the little person with their arm raised at the bottom of your screen. I will then choose 3 people to ask their questions. And once you have been selected, you will have 2 minutes to type your question in the chat. And the SAB will then have 2 minutes to answer these questions in bulk. Okay, I hope that is clear. The format is different, but just, yeah. So the first sabbatical officer to hold their report is Andrew, who is the president. So you have 2 minutes to give an update on your report.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Woo! Okay. Okay, I'll make a start. So, hello everybody. I hope you're all doing well in these very unprecedented times. Just to add a caveat to the beginning of my report to say that a lot of my work has been reprioritized, as well as the other sabbatical officers, given the ongoing effects of coronavirus, but we've been working really closely with the university on all the different issues, from student accommodation to assessment and feedback, and any relevant questions you have for any relevant sabbatical officer, please do message us here or at any time. But briefly, what I've been working on from the beginning of March, so on my priority of getting in and getting on, so ensuring that any student can access the university. I travelled down to London to speak at the All-Party Parliamentary Group on students. They had a meeting on student finance in the House of Parliament, and it was to raise issues that students in Edinburgh and across the country are facing with the student finance systems. And I was set to be attending the President's Roundtable in the Scottish Parliament at the end of April, but who knows whether that will still happen or not. In terms of a relevant student association, I presented at the Student Association's Planning Round meeting. That's where we ask the university every year for money, and we've presented lots of exciting projects, and we're waiting to hear back from the university on that. I know a lot of people are interested in transparency, so I just wanted to make that process clear about how we negotiate with the university on funding for the Student Association. And I also have been developing a local business directory so students can support local businesses. I think that's really important in current times like this. And finally, I've been working on the Student Association's response to the City of Edinburgh Council's city plan. There's lots of really exciting ideas there. Any student can respond to that, and we're responding as an organisation. And yeah, feel free to ask me any questions about my report. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. We will now take some questions. If you have a question, raise your hand using the little man raising their hand. I see 2 questions. Raise your hand up high so I can see them if you have a question. Okay, so I will take a question from Jeremy Pessel and Vivek Santiana. You have 2 minutes to write your question down in the chat box. Okay, the questions have been written down. Andrew, you have 2 minutes to answer these 2 questions. Just let me know when you want to start.
Okay, I'll start now. So just on Jeremy's point, yeah, I really appreciate that obviously there's no ideal situation for students in situations like this. The 28-day notice period was a suggestion that the Student Association had, where we worked with the university to negotiate the best deal for students. So the 28-day notice period replicates what happens in the private rented sector. The university has a huge, one of the biggest in the country, numbers of university accommodation. It would have been really, really complicated to potentially go further, and we wanted to be able to negotiate the best deal and make a real good compromise with the university, and I think we've achieved that. Of course, it won't work for every student, and we recognise that, but what we're trying to do is advertise all of the financial hardship funds and discretionary funds that any student can access, because if they are still experiencing hardship as a result of this, then they're more than welcome to access those funds, and any students who have questions. The last student council meeting, the motion on solidarity with students from India and Kashmir. So the way that we work with student council motions is that we assign them to different sabbatical officers. I believe this wasn't assigned to me, but I have to say that we did assign them quite late, and there has just been lots of stuff going on, so I do apologise that maybe myself or another officer hasn't got round to dealing with that yet, but we have had lots of different priorities. I think it's a really, really important issue, and I will be sure to address that and work with my sabbatical officer colleagues. But yeah, just to be frank and transparent with you, my time has been quite stretched and I haven't got around to that yet. And I'm sure the other officers haven't been able to as well. So yeah, I hope that addresses your concerns. I think that's it. Is mine not working or is it really quiet?
Oh, wait, I thought I had my microphone. Oh, my microphone was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you, Andrew. If I could clap, I would, but I think that would hurt people's ears. Next up is EP Activities and Services, Beth. You have 2 minutes to give your report.
Oh, my microphone. Ah. Can everyone hear? No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me. Oh, okay. Sorry. There's like a little pink box going around the microphone, so I didn't think it was working, but it is working, so that's wonderful. Let me know if you can't hear me. Oh, right now you can hear me. Yeah, right now it's working. Okay, so obviously this month has been particularly turbulent. As I mentioned in my report, and Andrew, and I'm sure all the other sabbatical officers, the main focus of my work has naturally been altered substantially. Main bits I would like to highlight, though, are that as of this afternoon, the collaborated video of the We Are Edinburgh profiles has been made, which asked every student that did it what makes you feel a part of Edinburgh. So I'm really excited to have a look at that and to share that with you all, because I think that will be really good insight into what helps students feel a part of Edinburgh and maybe areas that need some work. So work I was doing on the Study Space app with information services, and also the career service on the future of work. I was involved in a couple of things like the Teaching Matters podcast. As you can imagine, this work has kind of been paused, but it is in a position to be continued when things have settled down. Even if I'm not in office, I've left that in a good place where it can be picked up and continued when things settle down. And I'm actually really pleased to say that I've achieved a lot of the things that were on my original manifesto at this point in the year, which is I'm really, really happy with. So more immediately, obviously, I've been working very, very closely with the other sabbatical officers, with the university staff, the student association staff, to support students and work on contingency plans for the current pandemic. And this includes, this includes sort of society and student group support as well at this difficult time. Really quickly, I would like to say congratulations to Rachel, who's successfully elected as my successor. I'm really excited to support her in changeover. And seeing as this is the last student council, I would like to say thank you very much for all the students who've helped shape my year in office. I've learned so much from you. And yeah, the most important thing I'll take away is the relationships I've built up from working with such a diverse range of students, and I'll be eternally grateful.
Thank you, Beth. Again, I would clap. I will now take 3 questions from this virtual room. Taking the little man with a raised hand. If you have a question, raise them up high. Am I right? Okay. I see one question from Jeremy Pessel. Please, you have 2 minutes to write down your question in the chat. Okay, Beth, you have 3 minutes to answer this question. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm just reading it. Sorry, I'm a very slow reader.
Don't worry, take your time.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I would probably answer that, yeah, I'm in agreement that this is a really good platform. And actually, I don't want to say a silver lining, but this certainly has made us advance kind of online platforms and doing stuff online a lot quicker, potentially, than it would have done any other way. So I think that this is definitely a good platform. It's something that we've been using within the Student Association as well. So I've been working very closely with the Activities Office using Microsoft Teams. So I think it's been really good to get office bearers involved and get really high engagement and make sure that we're helping support them in the best way possible. So I would say yes.
Thank you, Beth.
I hope that answers your question, and thank you.
Thank you. Next up is VP Community Roisin. You have 2 minutes to provide an update on your work.
Okay, hi. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So I'll just start. So obviously we've all got updates on our kind of work has shifted a little bit during the current pandemic. So I've got a couple of updates on work that I've been doing in relation to that, which I didn't manage to add into the report because that's kind of been in the past week or so. So I'll just say those first. Well, this was already mentioned, but we worked with the university on asking for accommodation contracts to be ended early because we didn't think that there was going to be anything coming from the university. So we were really proud to manage to achieve that. And I've also been working to lobby private providers to also allow students to end their contracts early if they wish to and if they're leaving to go home. So yeah, that's been kind of topic. I also, myself and the other officers were working on content for the web page and working on setting up the virtual neighbourhood for Edinburgh for students, which is like a space for people to connect and kind of have a bit of a sense of community during this time. So yeah, that was those things. And then lastly, we've also set up an online version of the Green Hub. So that's yeah, another thing which has happened this week. And then yeah, you can read about the other updates in my report. I've also been working on the flatmate finding website, but so that's kind of currently being built and it should be able to go online soon as well. But yeah, obviously a few other things have been kind of paused in the meantime because of the pandemic. There we go.
Thank you, Roisin. I'll now take 3 questions from the virtual room. Raise your hand so I can see them. I see 3 questions. Okay, so we're gonna do Daniel, Vivek, and Jeremy. Please write your question in the chat box. You have 2 minutes to do this. Okay, great. I'll give you some time to read these questions, Roisin, and let me know when
Yeah,
you're
that's
ready
fine.
to start answering them. You have 2 minutes to do this.
Okay, I'll just read through them first quickly. Okay, so I'll just do them in order. So Vivek, have I considered ways to expand the virtual neighbourhood to accommodate community care and mutual aid work? It's a really good question. So I know there's quite a lot of mutual aid groups that have already been set up, and we'd added these to some as resources on the web page, because I thought it might get a bit overwhelming and a bit confusing to have so many different mutual aid groups to then set up another one. But it's also it's something that we could still do. But yeah, I think for the moment we're kind of, well, I'm kind of signposting people to the things that are already existing. So yeah, that's that question. Hopefully that answers it for you. The second one is regarding students that are currently living in catered accommodation. Okay, so I know that this is something that the Director of Accommodation is already working on, because obviously not being able to provide the normal food has been, firstly, I think it's a really difficult decision that's had to be made in the university, because it's yeah, it's kind of something that has never been had to do before. But yeah, I know that if you contact if you contact university accommodation, I think that they are offering students to be able to move into self-catered halls. So I think, my opinion is that that would be a good solution, I guess. So I think, yeah, for students who are worried about that, they should contact accommodation and then just ask to be moved into self-catered halls. So I think that would be one way to do it. Oh, I didn't answer the, oh, okay.
I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this last question as well.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I just ran over. Okay, yeah, so this is an issue that I think we could take offline, if that's okay. Just because we haven't, just to confirm that we haven't heard confirmation from the university on the outcome of the shuttle bus for the next year. So yeah, that's there's not been anything from the university on that. So
Okay, I'll have to stop you there.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Stephanie, VP Education. You have 2 minutes to give your report.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. So hi everyone, I hope you're all safe and well. As with everyone else, my work has been sort of slightly reprioritized these past few weeks, but I'll try to update on a lot of the stuff given this is our last student council. With hitting course cost campaign, I have had lots of sort of discussions with the university and heads of school over this, and it's really nice to say that I've sort of linked up with the communications and marketing department who are looking at a project quite similar to this, and they're going to sort of take a lot of my work on board for the next few years, which is really positive, and I'm quite confident that this will help sort of ensure the longevity of my work. I'm also going to be working again, hopefully with ECA, because I've done quite a bit of work over the past year with sort of specifics over the hidden course costs, and I'd really like to be able to close that off and make sure that we got some good impact out of it. And then also on another point with a lot of my work under representation, we've had our first pilot of the College of Science and Engineering Student Staff Liaison Committee, which I like to think was really successful. So it's really exciting. Hopefully that will continue in the next few years as well. We have had, I've been working a bit on the course enhancement questionnaires and if they're really fit for purpose alongside like wider discussions around student feedback. I've also been doing some work around the school rep handbook. Again, it's almost ready, and looking at lots of sort of little mini projects and stuff that we can put into that to make sure that our school reps are quite supported next year. We've also had our elections with the highest voter turnout since 2016. So congrats to all our new sabbatical officers and everyone else as well. It's really exciting. And I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, in this past few weeks, we've been working really closely with the university on sort of academic contingency stuff, given the sort of COVID-19 outbreak and how we can still support students the best we can over these next few months. But yes, that's me.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'll now take some questions from the virtual room, and so I can see them. I see 2 questions. Okay, Jeremy and Vivek, you have 2 minutes to write down your questions in the chat box. Okay, let me know when you want to start answering these questions. You have 2 minutes to do that.
I'm ready now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question from Jeremy, yes, the email from Colm did go out today, and it had quite a sort of new approach for all the assessments and how they will look for the next few months for honours students, and most are going to be over 48 hours, except for several sort of quantitative, so math and physics, and maybe a few other specific ones will be over just a couple hours. I've yet to confirm this with the university over how it will work, but they are very aware that students will be in different time zones, and it is something that I think there is still a bit of an active discussion over how to support students who will be in, like, let's say the States, for example, and do not want to wake up at 1 a.m. to do an exam. But it is definitely something that we're still discussing with to make sure that those students are still supported during it. And then Vivek, your question on the course enhancement questionnaires, yes, absolutely. One of the issues that we had was over these sort of biases that students are happening when it comes to these, and it is a really key point of why we're looking at them, because they're not actually accurate anymore. And I think the sort of type of feedback forms that we will have in the future are going to be very sensitive to this and try to work our best to be as useful as possible. But yes, it's definitely like in our minds when we're looking at these. And yes, that's me.
Thank you, Stephanie. Last up is Una, VP Welfare. You have 2 minutes to give your report as well. Let me know when you want to start.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, oh, sorry, I'm just bringing something up. Yeah, so as the rest of my colleagues have alluded to, in the last month, the COVID-19 pandemic has kind of taken over our lives and our work lives in particular in a way that we couldn't have anticipated even a month ago. So I would ask you to read that part of my accountability report in particular detail, and I'm happy to answer more questions on it if necessary. There's a lot of other detail in there, but one particular thing I want to draw people's attention to is the progress on emergency funding at the university. I made a proposal some time ago for a Getting Home fund, and whilst that fund in particular will not be coming into place, the university has now committed to significant changes in the way that it will be providing emergency funding. So that includes better communication around an existing quote unquote exceptional fund, which technically already exists behind the scenes, but is administered in a really ad hoc fashion. It includes the development of a proper case management system to be able to track students who are financially at risk, and to be able to halt things like debt collection from the fees and funding team on tuition fees and accommodation payments where necessary. And it also includes the re-evaluation of the administration of the hardship and discretionary funds. So for instance, the sort of completely arbitrary £200 limit that currently sits on the hardship fund, and when it comes to the discretionary fund, whilst there are some difficulties there because it's audited on an annual basis by the Scottish Government, which makes the administration of the fund a bit stricter. There's the potential for some leeway in how that's administered. So that's the main thing I wanted to give a bit more detail on, and I'm happy to talk more too. But I'll just leave it open to questions there, I think. And oh yeah, and congratulations to all the new elected officers, and in particular Neve, who I think might be here. But yeah, I'm really excited for the year that you're going to have, and very pleased for you all. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Una. We'll now have some questions from the room. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Jeremy, you have been selected to give a question. You have 2 minutes to write your question in the chat.
Oh my goodness.
I'll give you some time to read this, Una. Let me know when you're ready to answer this. You have 2 minutes to do that.
2 minutes to read.
You have 2 minutes to answer the question. Let me know when you're ready to do that.
Oh, right, okay.
Take your time to read.
Okay, yeah, I'm good to go. I'll come to the second part of the question on the Health and Wellbeing Centre first, if that's all right. I did put in my accountability report that the centre would be due to open at the end of April, because when I was submitting my report, that was indeed the case. Sorry if you could hear those sirens. That is, whilst I don't know what the alternative date is, that is definitely no longer the case. I think it extremely unlikely that the centre would be opening at the end of April. I think there is every possibility that the centre could be open by the end of September if the international situation has changed significantly since then. And if I'm being optimistic, I think it will have done. The centre, for all intents and purposes, is ready to open. The only reason they didn't do the final handover is because it became apparent that they would not be doing in-person service delivery anymore. So I think all being well, in terms of global health, then yes, they will open in September. All not being well, which unfortunately is a possibility at this moment in time, then no. That's maybe quite a simplistic answer, so I would endeavour to retain some nuance in that, looking in perspective. In terms of the benefits that it's going to bring, this centre is a huge testament to a lot of lobbying work over the past few years, including I think I mentioned a 40% increase overall in the provision of counselling and disability services, and that's over and above what's already provided at campuses like King's Building. So it will not be replacing any services that are already delivered on non-central campuses. So that's really positive. And in addition to that, there are some new roles that have been created and will be being housed in the centre, including an autism specialist and the university's British Sign Language specialist, who's helping with the BSL implementation plan. And as well as that, there's just a general improvement in wellbeing space. So there's been the development of this wellbeing lounge. Sorry, I'm almost there. The wellbeing lounge that students will be able to use at their discretion, and that's kind of open to suggestion how that gets used, but we'll see it's developing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is us for accountability for actually this school year. Well done to the Sabbatical Officers for their good work on campus and to those who hold them to account. Before we continue to the motion section, we'll have a 15-minute access break, and you can go grab a drink or a snack or, do your business, and we will be back at 7 p.m. Welcome back. Very, very sad to end that, Lizzo, but, democracy is awaiting. So the next section is motions. So student council motions ask the student association to do something. Change the way we run, start a new project, or encourage the university to make a change. This is your opportunity to discuss This is your opportunity to discuss whether or not the motion submitted Okay, sorry. I'm going to start over. This is your opportunity to discuss whether or not the motion submitted should pass and become Students Association policy. This section will work as follows. The proposer will be invited to introduce the motion, and you can do this by switching on your microphone when I call on you to make your speech. Make sure you click the microphone icon to switch it on before you start speaking. I've done this mistake, and don't do it. We will then have an opportunity for questions about the motion. You can ask questions by raising your hand by clicking the little person icon at the bottom of your screen. I will then choose 3 people to ask their questions, and those people will have 2 minutes to ask their question in the chat, similar to how we did it for accountability. The proposer will then have 2 minutes to answer the questions using their phones. After this, we'll begin the debate where you will be able to speak for and against the motion. If you wish to make a speech, please raise your hand. If I call on you, you can make a speech using your microphone. Make sure you click the microphone icon to turn on your microphone before you start speaking again. We will advise speakers when there are 30 seconds remaining by messaging 30 seconds in caps lock in the chat. I will ask them to stop verbally when they have run out of time. Then all students and representatives will be able to vote on the motions at the end. Okay, so I hope that is clear to everyone. Make sure you remember the microphones and everything. So our first motion is to create a section representative post for students who commute to university, and this was submitted by Jeremy Pessel. This motion was discussed at the last student council meeting, but as it aims to change democratic structures, it is an extraordinary motion, so it must pass at 2 consecutive student council meetings in order to become student association policy. So if it passes following tonight's meeting, it will become policy with the Students Association. So I will invite Jeremy Pessel to hold a 1-minute speech for the motion. Let me know when you are ready.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Good evening, everybody. I am ready. Start the clock.
Yeah.
Just for those who weren't at council in February, let me really quickly summarise the motion. We're hoping to institute a new section to represent commuter students at the university. I'd like to really quickly begin by thanking everyone in February for their support. I'm actually rather humbled by it. I spent some time paying attention to the recent student elections earlier on this month, and more particularly to those who were choosing not to vote or weren't aware of what this association does for students. And I'd like to answer one of those questions. The work that the association does builds connections and friendships between students by connecting them to their passions and hobbies, providing balance between work and play. The more of our student body that we can facilitate friendship building between, the better for everyone. And this motion goes some way to achieving that, which is good news, not just for the commuter students, but for all of us. If you don't have a reason to vote, if you didn't have a reason to vote for this in February, I hope with that in mind, I hope I've been able to help you reconsider. And it's on that basis I ask that we pass this motion at its second reading.
Thank you, Jeremy. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Raise them up high. Okay. Vivek, you have been selected to ask a question. You have 2 minutes to type your question in the chat. Let me know, Jeremy, when you're ready to answer this question. You have 2 minutes to do this.
Okay, I'm just reading it. Okay, I think I'm ready to answer.
Yep.
Blimey, is it really? I have, sorry, Vivek, you say you have a colleague who found it easier to commute from Malmo to Edinburgh. That's quite extraordinary. It's, in my mind, completely all about working together. So having the section representative post can liaise, I assume, with all the other reps if they exist. If they don't exist and there's another gap there and it needs to get filled. Propose addressing the various intersecting issues. Yeah, I think it really is simply a case of having as many people work together from those campaigns as possible, and the commuter student rep would be a valuable input to that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. You click the little man at the bottom of the screen and raise them up high. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Okay. Jeremy, would you like to give a 1-minute summation of your motion?
Yeah, really quickly. I think things like, and I'm started by the way, things, changes like this isn't something that one person does on their own. I kind of very much in the spirit of our president here, who based much of his campaign last year on students as change makers. You know, we can make a lot of powerful positive changes when we work together, and it's not just me that brought this to the stage, but it's everyone at student council who voted for it last month. It was the 40 people who decided to sign with me. You know, this is a very much a team effort, and I'd like to say that it wouldn't be possible without them, and you know what to do.
Thank you, Jeremy. I would clap if I could. Okay, so our next motion is for mitigating financial barriers that prevent section reps from fulfilling their role. And this was submitted by Vivek Santayana. Vivek, you have 1 minute to speak for your motion.
I'd just like to start by expressing my appreciation for the work that Jeremy is doing with this motion. I think it does a valuable work in representing students who haven't been served by the Students' Association in various capacities. However, being in a position like this, the responsibility of being a rep brings with it an additional burden, which students such as commuter students might find to be excessive on top of any any issues and structural barriers they already face to participate at the university. USA already provides funding for student reps to make council more accessible. However, I have a concern, and a lot of students share this, that a commuter student rep would then also need to be present on campus more in order to fulfill the responsibilities of being a rep. And this brings with it additional costs and financial burdens. I'm proposing this motion to suggest that we have policy at the Students Association to take on advisement all the various burdens that might apply to students in these positions, not just commuter reps, but also other section reps as well, and provide them additional funding that they might require for expenses to mitigate these barriers. The trouble with reps in these positions, oh, sorry, okay, right. Yeah, so that's me.
Finish your point, please. Yes, thank you. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Okay, Jeremy, you have been selected to ask a question. You have 2 minutes to type your question in the chat. If there are any other questions, this is the time to let me know. Let me know. Vivek, let me know when you are ready to answer your question.
Has the question already come in? My chat seems to be lagging. Oh wait,
Yes.
yeah, it's come in now. Hang on, I'm just going to read it very quickly.
Yeah, let me know. Remember that when you want to ask a question, you have to raise your hand, clicking the little person icon.
Right, thanks for the question, Jeremy. So the funding for the various section reps would need to come from a different budget than the students, so the council's campaign, than the Student Association's campaigns budget. So I don't think that the campaigns budget could be something that was applicable for this kind of funding, and this needs to be something that the Students Association would need to take into advisement for future budgets entirely. So that's why the specific fund was not applicable in this case.
Thank you, Vivek.
Amalia, would you like me to answer the other question as well, even though it wasn't someone who raised their hand?
I will allow it.
Okay, so to summarize very quickly, a few years ago, the university tried to have a thematic survey of postgraduate students, and they were unable to find feedback from commuter students precisely because they weren't given expenses to cover their train tickets from having to commute in to be part of focus groups. That's one example of these kinds of barriers that might prevent reps from doing their role properly. Students who have to physically commute into the university to be the commuter's rep would need expenses to do that.
Thank you, Vivek, and thank you for the questions. Would anyone want to hold this speech against this motion? Raise your hand if you want to hold the speech against. Okay. As the poll is leaning against no, Vivek, would you like to give a 1-minute summation of your
So as I've
motion?
already mentioned in my question to Jeremy, this is something that affected a friend of mine very closely, and I really see the value of a motion that Jeremy has put forward. And I think we need to recognize the various costs that this would impose on the person fulfilling this role. This motion is to support office bearers and make them more capable of doing their role. For that reason, I ask all of you to support the motion.
Thank you. Please remember, if you want to ask a question, you have to raise your hand to do that during or when I ask for questions. Okay. So the next motion is We Are European, and this was submitted by an association executive, but this person speaking for this motion is Lena Kraus.
Yep.
Lena, you have 1 minute to speak for your motion.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So I'm just going to start by saying why it's me doing the speech for. A couple of weeks ago, I collected 20 signatures to motion to have the European flag at TVA. And Andrew made a pro-Europe motion too. And then we put the motion together and worked together to present this joint motion. It's about user preserving and presenting a European identity, especially after Brexit, so that the University of Edinburgh remains part of programs for academic exchange for students, staff, and researchers, and also to lobby the government to keep this possible. University is a place of learning, and separation can only harm learning opportunities, and the vast majority of students voted Remain as well. This motion is important to me personally. I'm German, but I have strong ties to Cornwall. I have family there, and it's home. Brexit makes me feel like I've lost that, but seeing the European flag at TVA made me feel like I still have a home here. There are many people who are affected similarly or worse, and knowing that we have the support of our student association, small gestures like putting up the flag really mean a lot.
Please finish your speech, please.
It's finished.
Okay, cool. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Please raise your hands now. If you have a question about this motion, please raise your hand now by clicking the little person icon. Jeremy and Katrinel, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. You have been selected to ask your questions. You have 2 minutes to type your question in the chat box. Okay, I call on Andrew to answer these questions. Andrew, you have 2 minutes to do that. Let me know when you want me to start the timer.
Hello. Okay, so the first question, if there will be any legal implications of flying such flag. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there are any legal implications of flying a flag. Happy to check that, but it's been flown before, and we flew it for a while after we left the EU. So really keen to. I don't think that would be a legal issue. Jeremy's question. Let me just read it. Question about productive student session to pass. As they take office in the future to remain a nude and active presence. Yeah, that's definitely something I'll be willing to talk to Ellen about, but obviously we can't expect that certain officers want to take up certain tasks. So this was just to renew some form of consistency, but you know, things might change, so definitely wouldn't be held to this. They can be changed, and accountability reports can reflect any change in that, so that students have an up-to-date version. I think that's it for the questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Raise them up high, virtually. There is now a poll on your screen asking whether or not you would like to listen to another round of speeches. You have 1 minute to answer the poll. Okay, Andrew Wilson, you have 1 minute to give a summation of this motion.
Thank you, and thanks again to Lena for introducing this motion, and thank you to her for submitting a separate motion that we managed to combine with 20 student signatures. There's clearly a strength of support among students for maintaining a European identity. The Student Association and the University of Edinburgh represents many European students. We have the most European students in Scotland and the second most in the UK. So we want to preserve that European identity. And yeah, I think that that's something that is strongly felt amongst the student body, and we really want to reflect that in the work that we do. So please support this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Virtual clap for you and Lena. Our final motion is for fighting the structural racism of the PREVENT strategy and the hostile environment. And this was submitted by Vivek Santiana. Vivek, you have 1 minute to speak for your motion. Let me know when you're ready.
So I'd like to start by thanking Meera for a lot of help with this, especially as the BAME rep for students. I'm proposing this motion because USA's prevent policy is lapsing, and I think this is policy that we need to renew. I also wanted to expand the remit of that policy to consider not just prevent, but also hostile environment, because both of these are kinds of policies that get the university, through the teaching staff as well as the admin staff, to surveil students in what is a breach of their privacy and their education. I note that USA has already passed a policy to oppose the hostile environment. And in this policy that I'm proposing, I'm suggesting more concrete measures that we can take to specifically find ways of addressing the impact of both prevent and the hostile environment policy on students themselves, in things like providing students legal advice about their rights, as well as providing them support when they have to negotiate structures like going through prevent training or dealing with immigration compliance escalation issues in their departments. So please support this motion to oppose any such form of discrimination against international students or BAME students that they may face because of these policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Raise your hands by clicking the person icon at the bottom of your screen, and raise them up now if you want to ask a question. Raise your hands if you want to ask a question about this motion. Okay, please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Oh, wait, I saw a question. I apologize. Okay, Katrinelle, you have been selected to ask a question. Please type your question in the chat box. You have 2 minutes to do this. Vivek, you have 2 minutes to answer this question. Let me know when you want me to start the timer.
Most of the details are in the text of the motion that I've already put forward. Amongst the specific impacts on students at the university, some of the things include lecturers being trained to have to report any students whom they consider at risk of radicalization by because of any research that they're doing for their dissertation or their essays, and a lot of students who choose to do fieldwork or research into themes that could be considered risk of radicalization, particularly if they're working on issues around politics in the Middle East, have often been required to undergo specific forms of training relating to prevent training that is often very opaque and developed with a number of existing biases around that foment an environment of Islamophobia and xenophobia. So these are specific ways in which students have been affected. I do not know any immediate cases that come to mind about students who have been reported to the Home Office because of their research myself, but there have been documented cases of this happening in the press across various universities in the UK. So this is something which I would welcome you to read up in your own time. I could look something up myself later on if you'd like. Yeah, that's me done answering.
Thank you, Vivek. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak against this motion. Okay. There is now a poll on your screen asking whether or not you would like to listen to another round of speeches, and you have 1 minute to answer the poll. Okay. Seeing as the majority says no, I will ask Vivek to give a 1 minute summation of your motion. Let me know when you're ready.
So as an international student, it is something that really does terrify me when all of my movements are being monitored by the university for the Home Office, and also as a PhD student who tutors, being forced to be complicit in the prevent policy and all the duties that entails, as well as the Home Office's hostile environment policy, is something I find morally repugnant. I don't think that that education should be a space of surveillance, and I don't think that this creates a conducive atmosphere for our students to engage. These policies structurally discriminate against international students and BAME students, and for those reasons, I'm proposing this motion that we oppose these policies. I invite all of you to vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Vivek. And that is us for motions for this school year, which is exciting but also sad. I hope those who can will join in next year as well. Okay, so on to the last part of today's meeting, which is affiliations. So I'll now pass over to Andrew Wilson, the president, to discuss affiliations.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Emily. So I'm just going, Amalia, sorry. I'm just going to detail the process around affiliations, just so everybody's clear. It's a bit boring, but I will have to cover it. So under the Education Act, each year, the Student Association is required to give all of our members, which is all of you, the opportunity to review the organisation's ongoing affiliations. And in line with this, the association executive, which is the 5 sabbatical officers, we've prepared a paper detailing the Student Association's current affiliations and our recommendations on whether to continue to affiliate or discontinue affiliation. Where we are recommending an affiliation is discontinued, we have explained the reasoning in the paper that you should all have access to. And today I'm asking you, our members, to vote for or against those recommendations. These affiliations will also be considered by the Student Association's Trustee Board. And just to reiterate, the Trustee Board is made up of your 5 elected sabbatical officers, 4 appointed student trustees, and 3 external trustees. And under charities law, the Trustee Board is responsible for ensuring that the Student Association has a clear purpose, is operating legally, and is financially viable. If both the Student Council and the Trustee Board accept the recommendations of Association Executive, then they will be implemented. If Student Council and the Trustee Board cannot reach a consensus on the recommendations of Association Executive, then the status quo will remain and the Student Association will retain all our existing affiliations. Any affiliation only be overturned by a referendum, and any referendum proposal can be submitted in any of the 3 following ways. You can submit a referendum proposal directly to Association Executive. Any member can present a referendum proposal, and you have to have the signature of 500 members. Any member can submit a referendum proposal by bringing an extraordinary motion to Student Council, or the Association Executive can submit a referendum proposal by a 2/3 majority. Today, we are recommending the following affiliations. We are recommending that we continue to affiliate to the National Union of Students. We discontinue our affiliation to the Conflict-Free Campus Initiative due to the campaign no longer being active. We recommend discontinuing affiliation to the National Campaign Against Fees and Cuts due to the organisation no longer existing. We recommend continuing affiliation to the Stop Climate Chaos organisation. We recommend discontinuing affiliation due to the campaign no longer being active of the Votes at 16 coalition. And we're recommending continued affiliation of the Right to Education campaign and the Friends of Birzeit University. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'll pass back over to Amalia.
Thank you, Andrew. So we now have an opportunity for you to ask questions about these affiliations. Again, please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question by pressing the little person icon at the bottom of your screen. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. And the time to do that is now. Okay. Again, last warning, if you have a question about these affiliations, please raise your hand by clicking the little person icon. Okay, I call on Lena Kraus, Katrinell, Jeremy Pessel, Iona, and Jamie. I've selected you to ask a question. Please put your questions in the chat box now. Once we have all these questions, I'll pass on Andrew to answer. Okay, Andrew, please answer these questions.
Thank you. And just again, I think it's really important that we all ask questions on these affiliations because obviously they are really important. So just to address the first two questions from Lena and Katchanel. So there's a lot of detail in the paper. So the Friends of Berzat University affiliation. So the Friends of Berzat University is a grassroots campaign in support of the right to education and its role in the wider development of Palestinian society. They work with partners in Palestine and globally to deliver events, scholarships, and writing residencies. I think there is a lot of uncertainty around the affiliation fee, which is why it's unclear. But I think we did recommend continuing affiliation, and we can revisit that. And when we find out more detail, I believe previously it's been £15 to affiliate. On Jeremy's question, did the Student Association attempt contact with the coalition to establish? Definitely. So we based whether they're active or not on their web presence. The Votes at 16 coalition very limited web presence. And just for a bit of context, the Votes at 16 coalition was set up around 2013, I believe, when the idea of Votes at 16 was not really touted around a lot. And I think in the last election, we saw a few of the major parties pledging for Votes at 16. In Scotland, students can vote at 16 in some elections. So the campaign is slightly less active because they have achieved a lot of what they set out to do. But I believe there's still work to do on the coalition, but we don't think that that specific organisation is still active. So have we received any active benefit from NUS affiliation this year, especially in light of many universities discontinuing? So I'm not actually sure of any universities that have discontinued their affiliation this year. So I'm not really sure that that's an issue. And taking this question, do I believe that affiliation is worth 57,000? Yes, I totally believe that we receive an active benefit and that fee. Being affiliated to NUS is really important in terms of collective representation. There's significant savings on products via the NUS's national consortium, where we buy all the drinks that you buy and products that you get in your stores. And that's very substantial due to collective buying power. And most importantly, the NUS provides support and training for your sabbatical officers to make sure that we can do the best job for you, that we have the right tools and training to lobby the university and wider stakeholders. So I would believe that affiliating to NUS is still really, really important. And right now, in the middle of a pandemic, the National Union are doing amazing lobbying work to local and national governments on how to achieve the best deal for students, and I'm really proud to be part of the National Union. I hope that answers any of your questions.
Thank you, Andrew. You'll soon be voting on whether to approve these recommendations. So the last part of the meeting is voting. So I will now explain how you can now vote on accountability motions and expenditure requests from today's meeting. Voting will be conducted on the Students Association website, similar to an online ballot. You need to log into your account on the website and then go to the voting page. Voting will be open until 6 p.m. tomorrow. So student representative votes will still count as 1.5 votes as they represent other students. So accountability reports will pass if they receive 50% or more votes in favor, and motions will pass if they receive 67% of votes in favor. If it's between 34 and 66%, then it will go to an official online ballot. So in terms of affiliations, the vote at Student Council is a simple majority, so that means 50% of votes in favor to pass. If both Student Council and the Trustee Board agree, then on these recommendations, then they will be implemented. So if one or the other votes against the recommendations, then the status quo remains, which would be all affiliations remaining until someone calls a referendum to discount the affiliation. I hope that this is clear for everyone. The results will be announced on Monday via email, social media, and the website, and we will let you know if there will be an online ballot. Please feel free to ask any questions and send us any emails if you have any questions about voting or the motions or accountability. So the very, very last section of the meeting is our any other business part. So this is an opportunity for any reps in the room to promote events or things happening in the areas that they represent, even though that this can be a little bit hard at the moment. Please raise your hand by clicking the raise hand icon if you have any shout outs or if you have any other business that you want people to know about. So then we will do your shout out one at a time when I call on you to speak. Please raise your hand if you have a shout out to make now by clicking the little person icon. So when I call on you, please enable your microphone and say your shout out. Raise your hand now if you want to do this. Okay, I see 3 people wanting to hold a shout out. I call on Una, Roisin, and Vivek in this order to give their shout out. Una, you start.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for this year. It's obviously been a pretty tumultuous time, but I think we all, including you as students attending these sessions, have completely outdone ourselves. And I want to say a particular thank you to Amalia. This is her last student council before she graduates this year. She's been with us for I think 2 years and has done, I think you'll all agree, a really fantastic job. So yeah, just wanted to say a big thanks to all of you and to Amalia in particular. Thanks.
Thank you, Una. Roisin, you're next.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to also say thanks to everyone, and also thanks to all those who participated in our first ever online student council, which has been a bit of an experiment, but hopefully it's been a really good learning curve for everyone, and that you can bear with us and it will be improved in future as well. And also just to say that it's been like an amazing year, like lots of ups and downs, but it's been really it's been such an experience, and also congrats to the next year's team who are going to be taking over and who I already think are going to do an excellent job. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Roisin. Virtual clap. Okay, Vivek is next, and then Andrew goes after.
Hi, I'd also just like to thank Grace and Sarah for all of their help with everything, and for letting me take up half the agenda for motions the last 2 council meetings. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'd also like to make a quick shout out to a number of the charity Health in Mind. They're organizing a online support group for people based in Edinburgh and the Lothians. If you are, this is to replace the physical support groups that they used to run, and especially given the difficult times that we're in now, I think this might be a useful resource that a lot of students might want to be aware of. So Health in Mind is an Edinburgh-based mental health charity that a number of people volunteer with. They are organizing a support group via Zoom for people to sign up to. More details can be found on their website. So it's health-in-mind.org.uk. Feel free to look it up. If you need that kind of help and support, feel free to reach out for it. Thank you all for your patience and for listening and for your support and all the motions that I put forward.
Thank you, Vivek. Next up is Andrew.
I basically just was going to say what the other sabbatical officer said. So a huge congratulations and thank you to Amalia for all that you've done for Student Council over the last few years. And a special shout out to all those who've held me accountable this year. You've really made the job you know, really worthwhile hearing all your thoughts, and I really can't wait to hand over to the new team of sabbatical officers next year. Although, just a reminder, your current sabbatical officers are still your sabbatical officers until the end of May. You can't get rid of us that easily. But yes, thank you everyone for engaging in online democracy.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, I will allow a shout out from Roisin and Jeremy as well. Roisin, you go first.
Sorry, I've just forgot to take my hand down. I think I've said everything, so I'll let you pass over to the other people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roisin. There was a lot of people wanting to hold shout outs, but honestly, it's the last meeting, so we will allow it if people can keep their speeches quite short. So Jeremy, you're up next.
On. Now I've got I should have it working. Hi everybody, just once again with a shout out, so thank you to the entire Student Council team for all the hard work you do behind the scenes, particularly bringing it all together, because it is quite a challenge. Again, thank you for having me as well. I hope I've done a good job of holding everyone to account. Some people will notice I've been particularly active this year. That's something I intend to do next year. I think the one thing I want to plug your attention towards is the work that I've done with EUTV, and particularly with NewsEd. It's a great sort of channel for reporting everything that's going on campus, and I'm going to continue to work with them next year, as well as being activities rep myself, which I'm really excited about. Congratulations to everyone that's been elected. I am very much looking forward to working with everyone, particularly Rachel, who's going to be my boss. Congratulations, Rachel. Everyone have a great summer. I know it's not going to sound like it's going to be a great summer, but everyone does their best, I guess, in the circumstances. Try to have as cheerful a time as you possibly can, and thank you very much.
Me. Last person to hold a shout out. Oh, ooh. Okay, so Lena, you go first.
Yep, I just wanted to say also I've been in quite a lot of online meetings before, and this was really great. So I just wanted to say thank you to the people who set this up online in such a short time. It worked really well.
Thank you. That's really great to hear. Okay, we have a couple of minutes for a last shout out if anyone wants to say anything. Please raise your hand up now. Okay, Beth, go ahead.
I've just seen that Steph has also raised her hand, so I imagine it'll be along the same lines. I just want to say a special thank you to all the other Scabs. Genuinely, this year's been a roller coaster, but the team that we form, having not known each other before this year, I think it's a really unique opportunity, and I would really like to thank you all personally, because I've learned so much from you and also all the other students, but yeah, particularly the SAB team and all the staff at the Student Association, because we can't do our jobs without your support. So thank you very much.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Stephanie, finish this off.
Oh, okay, that's a lot of pressure. I just wanted to say, follow on from everyone else, like, thank you so much. It's been an amazing year. You still do have us for a couple more months, but I'm so excited to hand over to the next team. We know they're going to do brilliantly, but also just a huge thank you to everyone that's helped put this online. It's been amazing. Thanks to Amalia, and thanks to all our reps and everyone else for coming to Student Council and holding us accountable. Probably really important, and good luck to everyone in the next few months, and yeah, thank you. It's been great.
For coming to March's Student Council. This is the last meeting of the 2019-20 academic year, and the next meeting will be at the start of the next academic year, and hopefully in person, but we never know. It's a weird time. Please make sure that you vote online before 6 p.m. tomorrow, and results will be announced early next week. Please clap for the NHS at 8 p.m. They're working very hard during this time, and they definitely deserve some recognition. I have really enjoyed facilitating student council for the past 2 years, and it's been really such a big part of my university experience. So I'm really feeling the love right now, and this is honestly a little bit emotional, you know?
I'm crying. Oh my God.
You know, stay safe and well during this time. Let's stand together by standing apart. I hope that you finish your year with great grades and everything. I wish you all the best, and it's been a pleasure.